Hello, everyone. I have a great surprise for you because today I am really proud to have with me Oscar Grau and to get into details about Javier Milei. Oscar Grau is like the first person who started criticizing Javier Milei, like even back in 2023, and a lot of the critiques of Hans-Hermann Hoppe and Seyfedin Amus and Christopher Hansen and a lot of these people that originates from Oscar Grau. So I'm really happy that I have him now in an interview with me, and he can talk a lot more into detail about Javier Milei, how he is not a real libertarian, and while people are still in constant doubt if he is serious and if he cannot abolish the central bank and if he can do other things that are libertarian and anarcho-capitalist, and Oscar Grau is the guy who clearly and obviously says that no, Javier Milei is really convinced of what he does and that he is not a true libertarian. And so I'm really happy to speak with him today. Welcome, Oscar.
Thank you very much, Andrea, for your presentation. I am glad to be in your show. So I hope we are finished with this matter for good.
Before we take a deep dive into Javier Milei's politics, can you maybe please tell the audience a little bit about yourself? I'm sure there are people outside there who have no idea who you are, even though they might have read the one or another articles of you that go deep into the topics of Javier Milei, but you are sitting in Paraguay, and how did you become aware of Javier Milei and all this stuff? So what had you interested in that, and who is the great Oscar Grau who criticizes Milei so much?
Well, as you already told the audience, I am from Paraguay. I live in Asunción. That's the capital of my country. Well, it's next to Argentina, so we are neighborhood countries. So I actually know Milei for many years. I already, maybe 2017, I already knew about Milei, much of it, because we have always watched Argentine TV, and my father used to watch a TV program called Intratables, and then Milei was one of the commentators, that those people that sit around the show, and then I started to know about economics, mainly through Milei. But when I get into the names Milei will talk about, that is, I don't know, Mises, Friedman, I will start reading. Then with the pass of time, I started to notice that Milei wasn't that great, because it was more about slogans. Though taxation is death, money printing is bad, the I don't know, the state is a criminal organization. It was about slogans. But every time Milei tried to explain his actual economic thought or his actual political thought, he was very superficial. And then when I started to read about economics, real economics, Austrian economics, well, I found out he was not an Austrian either. And I believe it was about 2021. I believe it was the COVID crisis still. I stumbled upon a video of Javier Milei trying to justify the war on drugs. It was completely strange. He had the book of Lysander Spooner, that vices are not crimes, and he tried to defend what the book tells, and at the same way he was trying to convince the audience that the war on drugs was justified because there is a welfare state. Of course, that was completely nuts, because in that line of argument we should again criminalize alcohol, because there is a welfare state in alcohol. Is also a drug that can make people do different things when they are not sober. So there were a lot of things. And then I realized about his foreign policy. That was already before he was president. He would talk about Israel, and he has these, I don't know how to call it. I don't have the word here, but already in August, he was telling that his foreign policy was around United States and Israel. That's it. To sum up, that was his foreign policy.
Yeah, I think that was the first article I read that was written by you on lourockwell.com. Am I right? And I think at the end there was a line that said this article was revised by Hans Hermann Hoppe or something like that.
Well, that was my Hoppe and dissection.
Mm-hmm.
That was my second.
It was the second. Okay. But it was the first I read.
Oh, I have an article, a Rothbardian dissection before that. Hoppe also reviewed that and helped me to with some comments on all so on. He read a couple of drafts at the time, and then was the Hoppe dissection that Hoppe himself helped me to edit that, and he helped me with a few paragraphs, and then I started to write for the Mises Institute. Then I started to go more into economics. In the first articles, I also talk about economics, but was more centered about Milei as a supposed libertarian, and I believe the foreign policy was already enough. You cannot be a libertarian and have the kind of interventionist views Milei had all these years. This is nothing new. Milei already in 2020 had this I don't know how to say it. He was so opposed with everything about Russia, China. That's very neocon. That is, you have some a bias against all the Insta blog, so to speak. So he was too worried about this. So it's like, all the guys from Iran, from Russia are all bad guys, but curiously, the guys from the US are angels, something like that. To exaggerate a bit, is what contradictory. They're all criminals. They are all heads of a criminal gang. If we believe the state is a criminal gang, all the president are head of criminal gang. So he has these contradictory lines all the time. And even in economics, he has his view about inflation was completely mainstream. That, of course, he sees inflation like for his price inflation. He was not very preoccupied about the increase in the money supply. That's the key. And until now, he always talk about inflation, price inflation, and we are getting from 200 to 25 and so on. It's always about those numbers. There's nothing about the essence of the matter, because the problem with inflation, the increase in money supply, is not the CPI. It's the wealth redistribution. That's the key problem. And that happened a lot behind the curtains. That is in the central bank market, open market operations, the government securities market. That's where the key of things are.
I'm pretty sure we will talk about inflationary policy a lot. For the moment, let's stay a little bit at foreign policy because that is a point that is not that often talked about because from an Austrian perspective, it's pretty obvious.
Mhm.
Javier Milei always claims that he is a Rothbardian, and Rothbardian wrote a lot about foreign policy. And Hoppe, for example, but a lot of other people too, talk about these subjects. You could be just a non-interventionist, like Switzerland, and telling we don't want to have connections to the United States and Israel on the one side, but not to the BRICS state like Russia, China, etc. on the other side, and that would be perfectly fine. Now, there you can maybe find counterexamples. Especially, I found that in an interview between Bob Murphy and I think his name was Hanan. All the way he was at least Spanish speaking, and they defended that. Also, I think it was pretty anti-Rothbardian and pretty obvious to not like in South America. Pretty much every country is like saying we don't like US imperialism. Fair enough. They had a lot of military invention there. But on the other hand, they don't, like you said, everyone is a criminal gang. Like, why do we want to have connections to China? It doesn't work out for like Venezuela as well, right? So why would you have to pick a choice? And this is the Rothbardian perspective. And actually, it almost immediately convinced me to say, no, you don't have to do this. So I suppose that was your point too, like saying they are all criminal gangs, and we can't just make a non-interventionist foreign policy, right? And he did so much wrong, like pushing for getting Argentina integrated into NATO. He had a presence for Zelensky. He said he was supporting Netanyahu and the state of Israel. He bought planes, military planes from the United States. So it was all like Bargus defends that with, yeah, he wants to be on a good level with the United States, and Argentina is not really important from the foreign perspective. But then I would think if you really make this argument, you can also say then I could become non-interventionist. And on the other hand, I see, well, I don't think it's a point you can actually defend. Yeah, you have to be in a coalition with the Conservative Party, and they like all this military stuff. But I got that from an article of you. Javier Milei actually said that we want to make the we want to make the citizen in Argentina to become in uniform, to become a respected member of society. And this is not libertarian at all. You cannot defend that in any possible way. Am I right?
No. You have to be neutral. That's the libertarian position. That what we should take into account. Once we are talking about a world states, we are about avoiding any increase in aggression. That is, we always strive for peace, no matter what. That is, you don't want to agitate a war. You don't want to agitate the involvement of more countries in any war. So he was never about that. He was always about we should take our resources to crush the terrorists. That is, he always talk about they. Suppose I am Milei. We all use all our resources to crush the terrorists. When he talk about Hamas and so on, he was always about a police state of war. That is, well, this is more of the U.S. mindset of policing the world.
Mm.
So we are the countries that defend freedom. So we are we are making free countries in every place of the world through war. That's the U.S. mentality. The U.S. imperialism mentality is the policing the war. And Milei was about that in foreign policy all the time, and that's completely unlibertarian. It have nothing to do. Even you can listen to Lula da Silva, that is horrendous anyway, but he has a foreign policy much more libertarian than Javier Milei. And you can hear in the interview about talking the genocide or any war, and you will hear that's a more sensible speech. It is not impossible to have a head of state that had a more sensible speech in wars affairs. That's because Milei is part of the neocons. He's a neocon, so that's his way of speaking. He doesn't have anything more about that. He always was a neocon, and I have in my Javier Milei against the anti-war cause. That was a article published on Rothbard.com, and I have links there from 2022, from 2020. So there is nothing about new. Something I really think is kind of new of Milei is that once he was president, he started to be more soft in his speech every now and then. He was in some speeches, and I don't know, presidential speeches, he would tell, "Oh, I'm an anarcho-capitalist. I hate the state," and in another, he would talk about limited government, and so on. For example, his speech, his famous speech at the UN, that I wrote an article about that, unmasking Javier Milei in his speech at the United Nations. His first ever speech at the United Nations. That was completely lauded in the libertarian circle. The speech was really not so good, not in the slightest. It had some little few points good about less wokeism and the left, but beyond that was very bad article, a very bad speech, because he even quote Woodrow Wilson in a positive manner that is completely neocon. He has the neoconservative doctrine, that is the making the world safe for democracy, for so to speak. This will how Hans Hermann Hoppe will say. But there's nothing about libertarian in Malay's foreign policy, and we had not much internally either.
Yeah, if you mention democracy, I think Javier Milei a lot of times is referring positively to democracy. And I mean, of course, Hoppe is the great opponent of democracy, but already Moll Rothbard was not convinced of democracy. He told the United States public is in love with democracy, and this is a mistake, and they shouldn't do that. And so I just want to say, if you are trying to be an anarcho-capitalist, you have to address this. And I never hear this from Milei, right?
Well, he was a very more or less opposed to democracy a few years ago. That once he entered in politics, his speech got worse. Well, he was already not so good a libertarian either, but he got worse. That's definitely the case too, because he supposedly hated politicians, and this is true too. I'm telling you, 5 years ago, he was opposed to politics, but then he entered politics and he started to get worse. Already he was no Austrian either at that time, but he has a few talking points that were better than right now. So he was more or less opposed to democracy, but then immediately once he became president, and before that, he was already talking good about how to defend liberal democracy. That is very neocon too, and foreign policy. So he has these speeches when he talk about we are not to establish relationship with countries that does not that do not respect liberal democracy. For example, that's something I use in my foreign policy reply to Bagus. I must recommend any people to read the articles because I struggle to speak in English, but the articles are very clear about all these matters. So I really expect people to read those articles.
We will, of course, have the links to the articles in the video description, and I already posted a lot of the articles in my my before videos, but surely you can find them, and if you have as an audience questions for any specific articles, you can always ask and I will provide them for you. That's not a problem. It's just they are a lot. And so can you dig down a little bit deeper how you, because I don't speak Spanish and I didn't follow Milei before he became president, of course, and so I did not really realize how much his tone changed from before and after he became president. So what do you think is like the most important issues where he completely changed?
That's a difficult question because I believe the was about democracy and the need to remind people that he's in favor of democracy. So that will be one. And then it's not something. It's no more. It's not so about the tone. It's about the contradictions, the promises, the broken promises. It's more about that. He promised a lot of things that then as times pass by, he kind of, oh no, I never said that. But it's completely ridiculous because he said those words literally. So this is unbelievable. I don't know why anyone will try to defend a guy who is really contradicting himself every year. In a lot of issues, he promised he will cut his own arm if he raised one tax, and he start his presidency increasing a tax. He took office in December 10th, and he increased the país tax. It's a tax in, I believe, to imports. He increased it 10% right before, right after taking office. And these kind of things, he always break his promises. Broke. There is another thing. Before the elections, he was very known for the pro-life cause. That is, he was against abortion and so on. And then he became president, and he had an interview for BBC, and he said that he never said anything about that. He said that in the interview that he never promised that was not in his platform. I remind of this fact about in my Milei's political game, and that's something. He will promise something, and then as president, he will save people to his own borders. No, I never said that. I don't understand how people can watch those contradictions and still believe anything that man has to say. That he's no serious about anything except his foreign policy. That's the only thing that he really was very consistent, and that's almost everything you need to know, because it means that is the most important issue for him. So he is not about national interest either. If everything he has more consistent is about foreign policy, is the more important reason that he is for foreign interests. That is, he's not really trying to save Argentina from anything. He's serving a special interest. That is, can be foreign government or foreign capital interest and so on. It's nothing about freeing Argentina for anything. Yes, their deregulation are good, but we had many presidents that have regulated their country. They never said nothing about against the state. They were not anarcho-capitalists. So you don't need that. And another thing is he never talked about secession, political decentralization in a way
Yeah.
really Rothbardian or Hoppian. He talked about a little bit political decentralization, about taxes, in some kind of reform. That's the most, but he was never serious about it, because he could just say, well, we will legalize secession. We want to invite any province that they want to get independence from for the national government. They can continue to be Argentinians. Argentina is a nation. It's about the language, the culture, and so on. They can continue to be Argentinians, and then but not be part of the national government of Argentina. So he never spoke this way, or probably that before he was president, he talked about respecting contracts and property rights for public creditors. This is nothing about Rothbardian or libertarian. That's the problem. There we have people that defend Milei with words or with arguments that Milei himself never used. That's only a propagandist can do that. That's why you can know that these people like Bernardo Ferrer or Philip Bagus or even Jesus Huerta de Soto, that I don't know if he has really a propagandist. That is, I don't know, because he's very rich. I cannot find the reason why he's doing this. The I don't know how to say why he's doing this, but other people, the more clear cases, Bagus, you have the Bagus is defending Milei with argument Milei never said. That is, Bagus himself is inventing the arguments to defend Milei. If Milei really thinks equal to Bagus, but Milei is not even an Austrian. Milei himself couldn't give the same arguments as Bagus, because Milei has not the knowledge to come up with the same excuses. So that is a word of a propagandist. He's trying to make people believe that every criticism to Milei is not really so important. So he always finds some excuse. No, we cannot blame Milei too much about this. But Milei has all the power to dismiss his own ministers. He can kick out Caputo. He can kick out Santiago Bausili. He's always has the power, because that are his appointments. This something people do not take into account too much. These are Milei's appointments. These are his men. He has vowed for these people. He trusts these people. He makes them powerful, so to speak. That is, he has the power to eject these people from the cabinet. But he has not done anything like that, and he won't do anything like that, because this was just a bunch of crooks for the very beginning. How can you expect anything revolutionary for a bunch of crooks, people that had been in another administrations, that were Patricia Bullrich was security minister with Macri. Milei hated Patricia Bullrich. Milei, he even accused Patricia Bullrich of being a guerrilla terrorist.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard that she was so insane that during the pandemic lockdowns, she suggested to that the police goes from house to house and literally looks if everyone is vaccinated. So, which is like totalitarian and completely insane.
I think you will not find no a single libertarian in his cabinet, in the ministries and so on. I believe they have something like 9 or 10 ministries right now. There's no libertarian, and his advisors are not libertarian either. The influencers, the people that represent Milei in the media, on X and so on. No one of them is Austrian libertarian. They are not. They are not even using Austrian economics to play anything about it. If you read the speeches from Santiago Bausili, you can find this in the official web page of the Argentina Central Bank. They are not using nothing about that. They are only doing this is too having a mockery with a libertarian rhetoric. There is nothing truly peculiar about that. Yes, he makes some little changes, let's say the fiscal surplus, something like that. But yet, the fiscal surplus is completely not irrelevant, but it loses importance once you take into account that he quadrupled the monetary base. If you are getting surplus, so why you need to print so much money? And this is where where things get really worse, because he's printing money for extra budgetary activities, and that's where the wealth redistribution is more elitist. He is making wealth redistribution for special groups, because, well, I have to tell this. In Argentina, they already have a bimonetary economy. That is, people has cash balances in pesos and dollar. It's not like they only save in dollar or calculate. No, they have cash balance in dollars. It's something normal there. So you already have there all the condition for a swift dollarization, and something about that. To dollarize is not about exchanging the pesos in circulation. It's about the legal recognition of the government that there is a spontaneous dollarization already in the population. That's dollarization. For that, you don't need any foreign debt. You don't need any exchange. You have to say, well, we are now receiving taxes in dollars directly. And then something, I don't know, I explained this in my latest article, but dollarization is about the government acknowledging the people in Argentina prefer the dollar. That's dollarization. You don't need to exchange anything. That's wrong. And there are many people that I don't know, even in Austrian circle, that are not making this argument that the one I did the other day, because there's no logical need, either economically or morally, to exchange pesos in circulation.
Let's dive into that. Maybe before you just mentioned Bausili, and he was like he made a statement before Javier Milei went into office that he said, "With me, the central bank will never be abolished," and it was a critical what Milei said during campaign, that he will abolish the central bank. And as you said, you can freely choose who to get into his cabinet, so he didn't have to include him. And this is such a contradiction that I cannot really understand it, how people like you and me always have to defend Austrian positions while libertarians defend Milei against something that is not libertarian at all. And so they even defend Milei of something he never said himself. So this is at first it was confusing. Then I thought, okay, well, people have a really, really big hope that this will become the new star at the horizon that we just have to vote someone who claims to be a libertarian anarcho-capitalist, and then everything will be perfect utopia. And then another problem is not only that he has these crooks in his cabinet and he doesn't vote them out, but also that his economic policy like changes every month. And so it was really hard to follow. At first, let's abolish the central, let's even blow it up. And then now we won't have a central bank anymore. Then they wanted dollarization, and now they don't have either. So what is it actually about? And it changed a lot, and I think you followed it through like December 2023 over the month, and you had a lot of articles where you explained how it has changed again and how they had foreign debt, and now we are in a situation that's completely confusing everyone. And Philip Bargos, as his top propagandist, is sitting out there and defending something that nobody understands anymore, right?
Yeah, that's a big problem. I believe we will not be talking about this issue so much if the people we are supposed to listen to and expect to assess the situation properly had done their job. It was Pago's job to do my job. I am not an academic. I never finished human action. I never finished any economy in the States.
Okay, I did it.
I had to learn things along the articles. That is okay. I will try to talk about the financial mess that is Argentina.
Yeah, but
And
okay, but
I start to learn things at the right moment and writing those articles. That was for me was all an adventure. And even when I for the first time Milei's Bagus defense of Milei against me, he maybe had some good points. And then I continued to write all the article, and then when I was learning all the things, I was there finding out all the little tricks, the manipulations, and then of course I reply most of his different already, but at the time I didn't have half of the argument to reply to him because I needed to study. It was not my moral obligation. I don't even receive any money. He is an academic that he is living by his work on this. He has books and so on, and so Huerta Soto too. So I want people to realize how responsible they are for supporting Milei, because they, above all people, should have done better. This is completely inexcusable. How a man like me that haven't finished, and I don't know, I maybe finished. I may have 5% of all the literature they have in their minds. Really, this is completely unacceptable. The fact that they are monetary specialists and they are talking nothing about the things I already discussed in my article, even before they got into those matters, about the financial mirage, about the central banking, the balance sheet. No one. It's really unacceptable. It's not something we can just get them away with it. They have every responsibility because they are supposed to be our intellectual leaders. Like, for example, compare them to Hoppe.
Yeah.
Hoppe say the things we need to hear about Milei because they were true. And Hoppe wasn't, it's not like Hoppe is an expert in Argentina, but he had all the information to say every word he said. This no, Hoppe said that he didn't know anything about Argentina. That's false. Hoppe knew everything he need to know to make that speech, and his speech was essentially correct in every matter. And
Yeah,
we had even after that, we had a lot of libertarians defending Milei, who has nothing about the economics of Milei are not even Austrian. We had Austrian libertarians trying to, Hoppe is incorrect and Milei is correct. Something that's I found all that completely ridiculous. Why you will give a politician the benefit of the doubt against people like Hoppe? You are supposed to suspect a politician for above all people. We are in a natural opposition to political power. No matter who is in power, we are natural opponents of political power. So you have all the reasons to not trust these people. So they have to gain your trust. How can they have your trust above the people that are denouncing their flaws? You have to stop. Oh, I will listen to this because they are the people in government. They have all the interest to exploit people. That's what government does.
I think the way Hoppe critiques Millet, you don't even have to be such a deep understanding of academia. There are at least 3 other people who did that. This is Seyfedin Amus, Christopher Hansen, and just recently Jörg Guido Hülsmann. They went into deep detail, but Hoppe made this critique really easy. And he said just things like, well, if you abolish the central bank, then there is no longer any money printing. And if there's no longer any money printing, then people have the expectation, okay, well, then we can use the pesos and it will not, it will automatically deflate, and it will be a sustainable currency. And this is quite obvious. I love his like 20 lecture about teaching people like Paul Krugman about inflation is not, you don't have to go into deep academic details, but just ask these people like a child. How can a society become richer if you print more letter notes? It's impossible. And everyone has to admit that. So the critique of Hans-Hermann Hoppe is, it was like, it was a shame when I saw Millet in this talk show with these 3 clowns talking down to Hoppe and say, and it really says Hoppe has no idea of economics. It was just ridiculous to anyone who has listened to that. And the great academic details of what Millet is trying to explain, like this last period problem and these things, Christopher Hansen did that perfectly, and he explained that to me, but he also explained that on the Property and Freedom Society. Yeah, so it was quite ridiculous. And Seyfedin Amus got into the numbers, and like you already said, the money supply quadrupled, and
Yeah.
can I take this seriously?
We can explain this in a very easy way.
Yeah.
The government any government needs to finance its activities in general. There are many kind of activity of government. There are budgetary expenditures, that is you have to balance the budget, but you have extra budgetary activities all the time. We should remember the central bank is another government agency. Obviously is a very special government agency because has the power, the monopoly in money production, and he also regulate all about the banking system. But is part of the government, and everything the central bank does can be blamed to its government. That is, if you have the central bank printing this a lot of money, if it costs the government as a whole needs that money to pay something. Every time a piece of paper is created, it's because it have to serve a specific purpose. So it's not like government spending is all about budget. No, government spending is about all the diversion of private resources, because the government, we know, cannot produce anything out of well, can produce money out of thin air, but he is about always diverting private wealth. So in that case, it doesn't matter if you have a fiscal surplus, if you are if you're still printing money for another activities, you are increasing total government spending. And this, in this case, all this about the fiscal surplus was used against like a propaganda machine, because with this kind of thing they divert attention away from the fact that Milei was printing more money than his predecessors. In this all about, for example, the purchase of dollars. That is a government activity. They allocate funds just like budgetary expenditure. There are people receiving, for example, when the central bank is buying dollars with new pesos, the dollars come, for example, can come from the banks, and the banks are receiving new pesos and are, for example, I don't know, increasing the bank their reserve in pesos, for example. There is all about that is most of the time out of most of the analysis out there. You find, oh, the GDP, the CPI, and you find even Austrian economists paying too much attention to those numbers that really doesn't matter too much. The CPI is a very flawed measure. You cannot have an average price for goods, and the CPI assume that. And after that, you have the real terms. Another thing I have to, well, these people replying to my tweets and so on, trying to, oh, he died of nominality. And these people think of them as some kind of Austrian. How can you tell me that if you believe in real terms? That's another completely ridiculous measure. I will explain. This is very easy. The CPI, the Consumer Price Index, is based on an arbitrary selection of goods, and then they try to make have an average price for goods. Like they mix different goods of different quantities and weights. Like if people value all things equally, it's impossible. And then there is another argument I usually don't see around. Prices as such can change and do change often without anything happening in the money supply. That is, people's valuation change and prices can change for reason regardless of increasing the money supply. You have a higher productivity and innovation. There is no really a scientific way to know how much amount of money. There is no scientific way to know how many additional monetary units you need to match a certain amount of money in the past. So it's not scientific. And that what that means is that all the assessment of inflation by the government and by the system have to be made in nominal figures. That's the only the real scientific way to assess
I can hear if you bump on the table. It's loud.
Because I really fed up with these people speaking, well, trying to teach other people economy, even me, because they are really saying nonsense. Because that the only way, scientifically speaking, correct to assess inflation is with nominal figures. And that a way to do it is, for example, we know that all governments print money, right? So the only way we have to compare how good a government is doing is if they are doing worse or better than the other administration. If you had a monetary base that had increased, it had a rate of increase lower than the previous government, you can assume they are trying to print less money. But if you have a government administration that is printing at a rate higher than the previous administration, you can know for sure they are more inflationist. That's the only way you have to have unequivocal conclusions about inflation by a government. There's no another way. So I cannot. We should stop looking for mainstream data in that case. We only can, even the monetary aggregates. People all looking N1, N2, and well, you are trying to accept a performance by a government. You should look at more important and simple things. That is, for example, the manipulation of interest rate. That is how much this government is lowering interest rate without saving, increasing in any way. For example, in Argentina, Milei cut interest rate, the BCR cut interest rate 9 times until February 25. 9 times. There was no change in the amount of real savings in society. It's like they have two economies in Argentina. They have an economy for the financial class and they have an economy for the ordinary people. And the ordinary people are paying all this party. And I have to make another important point. In Argentina, they have like 2 government securities markets because they have a government securities market in dollars and have another in pesos. For a government to make both government securities market attractive, they need to intervene the currency market all the time because they have a problem because the pesos are not genuinely demanded, but the dollars are demanded. So they have this is the government himself is discretionally assuming the responsibility of accumulating reserve all the time. This is a never-ending problem if you don't stop those government securities market. You must stop issuing public debt. Milei never wanted anything about it. His government just in 2024 issued more debt than the previous government. Why? This is all about to serve a special interest. Why you have to defend a man that is only serving a special interest? There's no need, because, put it that way, I am Mileis. Oh, Milei is a libertarian hero. Milei does not even know who you are. Why are you caring for people that really don't care about you in any single way? The man came to government to serve a special interest, and this is not something unusual. It's happened all the time. Not because he's telling the people I am libertarian, it will change the fact that he's serving special interest. So we need people to believe in ideas, not in because someone is saying something you like to hear. You need to know these guys, and if he is appointing people that doesn't have anything to do with our movement, why you trust that guy? There is no reason.
I guess what people think is that every alternative would be even worse. But by saying that, I want to point out an actual tweet of Philip Bargos. You just talked about repudiating the debt, not paying back the state debt, which would be the libertarian position. And Bargos himself said, well, the Peronists said they would do this, which is a little bit ridiculous to say. I mean, I wouldn't trust the Peronists, but still, they are actually saying they would do what Javier Milei should do. So it's a little bit crazy.
There is another problem we can address. When you have an economy like Argentina, if you have a government securities market rebounding, this is a problem in itself because for opportunity cost, why would you invest any money in the production of goods or services if you can realize gains very much more quickly, less risky in the financial markets. That is, you are not attracting any investment in in the real economy, and this is a problem in Argentina. And I explained this in my financial mirrors. The case is so particular that in Argentina, when you have this carry trade strategy and so on, we are not even creating a business cycle because all the money is only changing hands in the financial system. So there is not even money investment in that regard, because in the market of goods and services, yes, it will go, and eventually so the money goes to the economy, but it's not even that credit expansion like in any other country, because the credit expansion is much about the peso financial demand. It's about making these strategies. This it's really more obvious, and the water the distribution is also more obvious, because if you are printing this amount of money and is not paying any deficit in budgetary expenditures, the money is paying something else. And who are the people receiving this money? A special interest, that is financial interest, and public creditors, bankers, all the people that live from doing money from money, not from serving the people in with production of goods or services. This is for me it's completely obvious, but these are crazy times.
Before I forget this point, I wanted to address the special situation about the Becerra, the Argentinian central bank. You told me the can you go into detail of the situation of how private and how a state central bank this is? You told me that this was a little bit different than like the Federal Reserve or like Americans or even the
well,
yeah.
I initially I thought that the appointment of Auxili was it didn't have to go through Congress. I was wrong. I was telling you this in private. No, it's like in the United States. The appointment goes through Congress, but the appointment is Milei's responsibility. That is, this is your president of the central bank. Okay, that's it. But he had all the power to eject these people from this position. Well,
but that is different, isn't it? I mean, now in the United States, I think Trump really influences the Federal Reserve, but that was not always the case.
Well, I already know. What you are talking about, the independence or no independence?
Yeah, I mean, independence. I know, but
well, I believe in Argentina it's more obvious that there is no independence of the central bank. But I will explain that. For example, every time in the economic team of Milei made some important changes in the monetary policy, they all gather. So they will gather. We have a public stage, and then you have Caputo, Bausili, and Milei. And sometimes Milei will speech, other time will speak Caputo, but they are all in this. So they are all to blame. That is, Milei is all to blame too. That every policy the central bank in Argentina does is to blame to Milei too. Of course, because Milei is defending this man and is praising this man all the time. Milei says that Caputo is the best in his position in Argentine history. And Caputo was criticized by Milei 5 years ago. He was a big critic of Caputo. And Santiago Bausili was also part of the Macron administration. Santiago Bausili was also in Macron's cabinet. So, and they were partners too. that's that's the thing. There is a image, a picture out there showing how uh, 4 or 5 people in the cabinet, that is maybe some secretariat or something like that, 4 or 5 people that work for the same banks through the years. Oh, these are all, they are all bodies from, I don't know, 10 or more years ago. So they are all they are all friends. They are all part of a group. They are part of their own club, and we are not in it. And no Argentina, no ordinary Argentina is in it either. So yes, there is a point we can make about the alternative. They always try and bring this out. And no, but Milei is much better than. But that's not the point of the criticism. The criticism is about what Milei really doing in government. That's the criticism.
Mm.
If someone thinks that any other alternative will be worse, it doesn't make Milei any better. That's the point. You cannot defend a guy saying, "Oh, the Peronists are worse." Well, we can defend the Peronists themselves against other people that are worse than the Peronists. I can defend Cristina Kirchner against Nicolas Maduro. Maduro is also worse than Cristina Kirchner. I know a Kirchnerist because Maduro is worse than Cristina Kirchner. So I should be a Mileis as a libertarian just because I think Cristina Kirchner is worse. So there is no point there is no hope for any people in the world if we are all the time settled for these groups. That's a no winning position. You are never going to get the population to really see through this scam if you are all the time finding excuses to defend groups. That's it's really interesting because it's usually the status that make that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The Trumpers, they know Trump is horrible, but he's better than Kamala. Say, but you are not a Trumpist. You are not a statist. You are supposed to be a libertarian. Why are you defending those guys with the same statist arguments? You otherwise will be attacking the same people because they defend them. For example, a libertarian will criticize any righteous or lefty with the same arguments. Oh no, it's better than the other. But that is not something we are about. We are about denouncing the people in government all the time, no matter what.
Yeah, I was pretty much about to ask you pretty much this question. Yeah, can you like even if libertarians and anarcho-capitalists drive completely crazy about this topic of Javier Milei and suddenly become statists and defend Milei about everything just because he says things you want to be true, even though he does not really implement them. Is there anything good about Javier Milei? Like people say, like the rents went down or something like that. I'm not sure. Is there like anything you can say? Okay, well, that was at least a little bit of politics of Javier Milei that went not that bad. I mean, it's complicated, of course, and since I don't really want to defend them, I just want to play a little bit devil's advocate because I will certainly get asked this question, and I want to answer at least honestly and say, okay, well, look, even if I put the tinfoil hat on and say he is a globalist puppet installed by Klaus Schwab, and he is supposed to get the whole world to point with their fingers at libertarianism and say, see, it doesn't work, even though it was not libertarian politics ever. What I would at least do is at some points implement some more libertarian principles that it makes it look at least a little bit better. And so I asked myself, wasn't there at least some measurements you can state that were well actually implemented that actually help any Argentine citizen?
Yes, and I actually acknowledge some good measure of Milei in my Milei political game in other articles too, in my hobby and section. But that in itself that it does not make of Milei a libertarian or a national economist. Even Trump can make one or two good measures in government. That happen all the time.
That's a good argument.
I want people to know something. The fact that the government is about exploiting people, it doesn't mean that the government does not have any interest to exploit people in a more moderate way. That is not in the best interest of any government administration to have no economy. That is, they will do changes for good because they need an economy to live on. That is, it's not like you need a Austrian economist or you need a libertarian government to make one or two few changes good. No, you have all kind of structural changes in other cases. I don't know. I don't have the example in my heart, but I read articles about changes in economy or in policies that were really much more radical than Milei's in these years that were before. Even Christopher Hansen brought that out about Menem. That there were similarities with Milei. So the people need to know you can praise a certain policy, but that in itself does not make Milei any better as a libertarian or an Austrian economist. It's an argument you can use with every other government. Even you can have Pedro Sanchez with a better foreign policy than Milei, for example. I don't know. I don't know much about Pedro Sanchez, but I believe there must be something he's had done good. Oh, I don't know. It's not unusual to have any administration that will make one or two good moves. That is it's not rare. So why you are using those arguments in favor of Milei but not using in favor of other crooks? There is no. I don't know if you are following me. There is no something about that makes Milei an Austrian economist or a libertarian, and that's an important thing to say, because the big problem here is that Milei continues to associate himself with this school of thought, and his defenders continue to do the same. They are the ones that are defending. Oh no, Milei that is this, and he talk about Rothbard Institute, but then he has nothing about Rothbard Institute in his monetary policy either. So that we are. It's not about. I wouldn't have the need to criticize Milei so much if he never talked about libertarianism and Austrian economics. We have the duty to do it because he's teaching people wrong. We don't want our philosophy or our ideals to be I don't know how to say it. We want people to know really how our ideas are. We want people to know really how a free market economy is. It is not about intervening in the currency market. It's not about fixing the devaluation rate of the peso every month or so on. It's not about that. It's about leave people. How do you say?
Leave
the market. Yes, leave the market alone. Leave the money alone, and so on. So if Milei is not doing that, and he is associating himself and his defender are associating Milei with our school of thought, it's our duty to say no. That's not libertarianism. That's not Austrian economic. That's not a policy for sound money, and so on. That's really the problem. If Milei were not saying all those slogans, we will not having this chat right now. We are having this chat because we need to separate things. He's not one of us. And anyone supporting Milei as a libertarian in the neo-libertarianism or actual economic is not either. You cannot be a Mileist and an ultra-libertarian. If you pretend to be one, you are also a phony libertarian, a phony ultra, because you are really completely immoral, because you're supposed to defend Austrian economics and libertarianism, but you are supporting a guy, defending a guy who is against that. Because Milei is against that, because his policies go against that. No matter, it doesn't matter if he says that he hates the states. Well, everyone can say things, but what matters the most is his policies. And even if we can give to the rhetoric some importance to. In that case, Milei isn't any better too, because he is full of slogan, but even in his speech, he's not so libertarian either, because his foreign policy alone counts and completely obliterate his libertarianism, because you cannot have this is a crucial matter for libertarian. The anti-war cause is non-negotiable, like the word Milei always uses. Oh, closing the central bank was non-negotiable. The fiscal surplus is non-negotiable. Well, foreign policy is non-negotiable for all. Period. If you are not anti-interventionist, you are not libertarian. There's no more debate. I believe there is some point where you don't need to debate too much. It's like, for example, why are people debating with Walter Block about Israel? This is pointless. What all we know, Zionists cannot be libertarian. So stop caring about Walter Block and kick out of all libertarian circle. This must happen with Mileis too. I really believe Bagus and all the ultra libertarians that had defended Milei, they are not ultra libertarian more. They are not ultra libertarian anymore. They made their choice. They side with a neocon, with a Zionist. You cannot side with these people and pretend to be a real ultra libertarian. No, they are not. They are phonies. They are intellectual fraud. They are immoral fraud. You cannot be like that. I cannot accept, oh no, we need to no, you don't need to debate 2 years about Milei. We don't need to debate. He already has been in power 2 years. All the things he could have changed for the better, and in a very safe way, he could have done it already. He didn't do the more important thing. And even I remember Jesus Huerta de Soto saying that Milei should have made the shock therapies measures and the quick that is in 1 week or so, something like that. I put this in my article against Huerta de Soto. There are even these things, for example, that Huerta de Soto were saying when Milei took office, that Milei didn't fulfill either, and they continue to support Milei. How can I think they are doing this because they are great people? No fucking way. No, there's no way you can continue to defend a guy that is all the time contradicting himself, breaking his promises, and even printing money like a maniac.
One sentence I got recently from Alessandro Fusillo was also quite good to add here. If it was really true that Milei couldn't do XYZ, like abolishing the central bank or whatever, then at least what he could do is be transparent in his politics. Mm-hmm. And that's what you said as well. You always claim, I mean, you say, well, he can get rid of all this central bank politics and all. And I want to wrap it up in a couple of minutes, but I want to show the graph of trading economics you want to tell me. So let's change to that. Here I have the graph of trading economics, and you showed me that of foreign direct investment in Argentina, and you can see that all the time of the regimes back then, and how it decreased that much in especially 2025. And can you explain to me a little bit in detail what we are seeing here?
Well, what do you need for an economy to thrive? You need savings, you need investment in the production of goods or services. That is, the financial market is not about creating wealth for society as a whole. This is only we need to go more about this in economists as libertarian too. This is a cancer. All government securities market must be abolished. There is a lot of things of things behind the curtains. I would say people making money from money through the banking system and through through public debt, for example. So this is something we should talk more about, but because there were some kind of over attention, I would say, about spending cuts. Yes, it's always good to cut spending, but you need to pay attention to the extra budgetary things, the extra budgetary activities. That well, I want, and that's something we should learn about more, because all governments that's something that usually go unnoticed, and it's really important because that's where the really elitist wealth redistribution happen. Well, and we have and now the Argentina foreign direct investment. That is foreign investment, and we can see how in 2025, starting in December 2024, so you see the first that is in yellow. I don't know how to say
Yeah.
this color, beige. Well, this is a problem because the monetary in Argentina is very changing, and no one wants to invest in a country that is changing its monetary policy every 6 months. They are making changes every 6 months. And that's something Milei, we don't, Milei doesn't need to abolish the central bank to make better measures. They could abolish all currency controls, for example. Stop meddling with the exchange rate. Leave it free. That's how it is things in Paraguay. We don't have an official exchange rate for that matter. This is all one exchange rate. Well, you don't need that, for example. And you don't need, for example, to continue to issue public debt. Okay, pay the old debt, pay the all inherited debt, but for at least that does not issue new debt. So there are many things that are contrary to the way we are supposed to have a more or less libertarian administration. So nothing about that is Milei doing. He doesn't stop issuing money. He doesn't stop issuing debt, and we have this problem. And for example, we can go to the money supply. I will send you there.
Okay.
The foreign direct investment, we had some negative levels during Milei in some part of the 2005. That is, the money, the investment is getting out of Argentina. It's not even getting in some cases.
Maybe let me add the point. I sometimes even hear this from Austrian economists telling that they are so proud that now the government of Argentina makes a government surplus. And all I'm saying is like, that's not a good thing. If you have a surplus from the government side, then that must mean that you automatically decrease taxes so the citizens profit from that and not the government. Who cares about the government surplus? So
Well,
only government officials. That's not a good thing.
the problem is
Pretty easy
that
to understand.
we should pay attention to total government spending and total government revenues.
Sure.
And you can have a surplus, but what is important is if you are diminishing the size of the surplus. Even if you have a surplus, okay, let's have a constant surplus, but you need to minimize government revenues if you want our economy that is getting more of it for itself. That you want people to have more money. That is, the government have to extract less money from the people. That is, if you have a surplus, you have immediately you have to lower tax rate. And then if you have another surplus the next month, you should lower tax rate even more. So if you are not doing that, it's not because you are really looking for the economy. It's because you are always looking for the government to get more resources. But a government that is getting more resources is a private economy that is not getting much of resources for itself. That is, I explained this in an article, but I don't have the exact words. The important thing is the continued diminishing of the public-private ratio.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter if you have a deficit or a surplus, if you always getting the economy to get bigger and the public sector to get smaller, something like that. So what it matters is how much how much resources you are diverting from the private economy. The right direction will always be less for the government, less for the more for the private economy. That is, so you can have even you can have a very little deficit can be better than a big surplus with high taxes, because you can have high taxes in a big surplus, but the economy is suffering, and you can have much lower taxes and then a small deficit because you are taxing less, and then you are printing a bet here, but the economy is getting more for itself. That is, it's not. I don't know if I'm explaining good, but what you will need to cut this out.
It doesn't matter. I think I understand completely. I mean, you can have a huge surplus and still high taxes. It's totally normal. I understand that the private to government sector, we want private sector, not public sector. I mean, it's completely obvious to every
We
libertarian.
want the private sector to thrive. No, the public government to thrive. And out of the private sector, I spend of the economy. Well,
I think you already made the most important points, and I don't want to go much longer. I just want to want you to give like a little bit of prospect how you see the future. Like now, it seems in the votes for the parliament that the Milei party has been confirmed more people voted for Milei, and so the hope for the people goes up that he will eventually abolish the central bank and that he will impose more of his libertarian policies or whatever. What do you think will happen over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years? And do you think it will collapse, or do you think, well, because what I think is this is a very thin house of cards that needs to be destroyed so that people don't have the illusion that they can just vote someone who claims to be a libertarian and then everything will be perfect. And I want, like Saifedean Ammous said, that we will face the public claims like, look, this is not true libertarianism, and then people will laugh at us and say, yeah, that's exactly the same thing the socialists always say. And so I think for the most part we can address these issues now. We cannot address these issues in 3 years after we realize that everything that Milei did was not even better than his predecessor, right? So I know you cannot perfectly answer this because you can't look in the future. But what do you think is going to happen?
We need to point out that Milei is not even better than his predecessor in many things. He is better in some things, but he's worse in other things. He's more inflationist than his predecessors. That in itself is too much. We are talking about men that came to abolish the central bank, that spent years about talking against money printing to finance fiscal deficits. And then he has fiscal surplus and is more inflationist than the previous administration. So Milei is worse than his in some regard and better knowledge. He's worse even in foreign policy. He has this speech in front of the armed forces in Argentina, August 2024. Ryan McMacken wrote an article about military spending in Argentina, a very good article, and nothing about that speech is libertarian. It's completely the opposite. It's a completely statist speech. That speech in itself is enough to know Milei is no libertarian. That is all marketing brand. This is not about. Another thing, I believe nothing will change. This is like a Macri administration in that sense. Of course, Macri didn't have a surplus, but it is a Macri administration because it represents the same interests, represent the same people. Even if you go before back in time, you have the Patricia Bullrich signed a very important agreement with Israel during the Macri administration. This is the Macri administration was also a very Zionist administration, but this is more Zionist even than the Macri. So it is another thing. People believe that Milei won in Argentina because they are very happy with Milei. No, it's not. It's not. Yes, there are people that in its own. Of course, there are people that really hate the parent in the Kirchner, and so they will vote Milei just for that. It's not because they. Of course, there are fanatics and people that really love Milei too, but there are others that are really voting for Milei because they think it's better than the alternative. Or worse, sometimes, and this happened a lot in the last year, and the movement of La Libertad Avanza, the political party of Milei, is already full of people that are not even libertarian in a single way. They are coming from the Kirchner, from the Peronists, from the radicals, from I don't know the Menonites. There are people of all over the place. They are increasingly less libertarian. They are not a libertarian party, but they are increasingly less of a libertarian party. And this, and I don't know, any Argentina will tell you this. Milei fill up his list throughout the country with a lot of people from another political sectors. So people that in the past were rivals the Milei political movement. There is also an exodus of many in liberty. So libertarian minded influencer in Argentina that were more or less Mileis before, and now they are opposing Milei because Milei really even betrayed his own base, his own fan base, because there were people really having good intentions with Milei that felt betrayed with Milei because Milei really felt his many of his voters too. He's not only bad in libertarian terms, he's also bad as a as a human being that betrayed his own voters. Because of course, and they will continue to. We have all the righteous, all the conservatives, and some people like that, people that hate the left, and all what matters for them is that the left doesn't govern. That those people will vote for Milei again, over and again. But and I believe nothing will really change with Milei. All
Mm.
we will have 2 years of we already that like this again. I don't think nothing will change. I don't know if he will win in 2027, but we'll see.
Oscar, thank you so much for your interview and also of your work. I think a lot of these topics would not have been uncovered without your work, your articles, and you did so much. So I really appreciate it and thank you for your time.
No, I am thank you for with you for your recognition of my work and for helping spreading that word too. And I want to thank my many friends and that always help me with my article. And I know so well. I struggle to speak. I am better at writing, but I also have the help of very bright and good people like Alessandro Fusillo, Octavio Bermudez, Stephen Grains. So I have many friends. Even I want to thank people that have helped me spreading my articles, even like people like Seifi Dean. All the people reposting my article, they are all much valuable for me. If I had not the help of some famous people, I wouldn't reach as much as I could. I hope and there are more people reading my article after this because they are much better than this interview.
Let's see how that goes, but I will try my best. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.